You hear us okay? Good evening, Commissioner Machuga. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, sir. We can hear you. We'll be getting started here in just a minute.
Transport renamed.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. This is a hybrid meeting. The city council member of the public can view this meeting live on Channel 8, the city's website, and YouTube. Live Spanish translation service are being provided for tonight's council meeting by telephone. Please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 asterisk. The clerk is the host of the Zoom meeting. Speakers will be able to unmute themselves and recognize. I call the study session to order. Charles, how you doing? Shall I wait till 6:05?
No, we have 9 now.
Okay. All right. Okay, we will now recess to the URA meeting. Council will return immediately following the URA meeting, which is estimated to last until 7:20. At 6:02, I'll call the URA meeting to order and ask the secretary to call roll.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Douglas.
Present.
Vice Chair Noble.
Present.
Commissioner Guardiola.
Present.
Commissioner Teeter. Present. Commissioner Sandoval. Commissioner Young. Commissioner Dukes.
Present.
Commissioner Kim. Commissioner Trujillo.
Here.
Commissioner Henson.
Here.
Commissioner Amador. And Commissioner Machuga.
It's my favorite.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second to excuse those members not present.
So moved.
Need a second? All right, got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. 10 to, no, we have 9. Is that right? Oh, yeah, Miss Lori. So, yeah. 9 to 3. Okay, approval of the minutes. It is, we need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 13, 2026.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to approve the minutes of July 13, 2026. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passed 9 with 3 excused absences. Okay, first up, resolution URA 2026-010, approving IGA between the City of Commerce City and the URA Renewal Authority of Commerce City.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Caitlin Quander. I serve as special counsel to the Urban Renewal Authority. This brings back a draft intergovernmental agreement that you saw at your last meeting. At that meeting, there was not a lot of significant comments or changes from you, and so it is really very much looks like the draft that you reviewed at your last meeting. So you have a resolution before you along with the exhibit of the IGA. This would also, of course, be taken up by the city since it is an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Urban Renewal Authority. It generally dictates kind of sharing of staff and other kind of purposes of the URA. Happy to answer any questions if there are specifics.
Any commissioners have any questions? All right, seeing none, I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution URA 2026-010.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Any discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor is to adopt the resolution URA 2026-010. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes 9 with 3 excused absences. All right, on to resolution URA 2026-01011, adopting amended bylaws of URA.
Chair, Caitlin Quander. Again, we discussed this at your last meeting, and I really appreciated the robust conversation. In your packet, you see a resolution, a clean version of the bylaws, amended and restated bylaws, along with a red line showing the changes from the last draft that you reviewed. So we've incorporated the comments received. Happy to answer any questions, but otherwise this resolution, and along with Exhibit A of the amended and restated bylaws, is up ready for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion second to adopt resolution URA 2026-011.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes 9 with 3 excused absences. All right, presentation 2026 URA budget overview. I'll invite Chris Johnson, budget manager, forward to give a presentation.
Well, thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, and the ability to present the preliminary URA numbers to you guys tonight. Just quick background, there are 4 active URAs within the city. Prairie Gateway, which is the area around the Civic Center here, Derby Business District, Mile High Greyhound Park, as well as the Sand Creek Urban Renewal Plan. As you can see on the map here, most of them are down here in the core city, separated just by a couple blocks between there. When we get to the budget numbers, we have it broken down by area as well as an administrative section. For the Prairie Gateway, property tax as well as a little bit of agreement revenue comes in. That property tax is mostly transferred out to help pay down the 2026 debt that the city holds. Some of the agreement revenue goes right out, as well as some small outside services to the fire district, as well as payment to Adams County for the property tax collection fees. In Derby, we have a sales tax PIF that drives most of the revenue from there, and we put some towards outside services as well as project expense. In those expected expenditures, there's supposed to be a blight study and then a PUD amendment looking to go for in the year 2027. For Mile High Greyhound Park, we have the property tax coming in, as well as a small amount of sales tax TIF that goes to fund some outside services, property tax collection fees, as well as some project expense, which will go towards the parcel A and B development. In Sand Creek, it is just a small amount of property tax that is also put towards outside services and a small amount towards the property collection fees. And then in the administrative balance, we generally transfer a little bit of fund balance to allow some outside services for studies and any work to set up a new URA. This is the first time touch point of the URA. We will be coming back in October and November to open and close the public hearing and hopefully adopt the URA budget. I open it up for discussion.
Commissioners have questions? I had a question on the Greyhound Park. I know it took a while for those funds to accumulate, and where are we at with that target amount of, initially it was going to be a certain dollar amount, and then this couple, 3 years, it was like, well, not bypassed, but amended, and then they started to pay.
Thank you for that, Chair. Great question. So I think what I heard from you is, where do we stand with the expected waterfall as far as the TIF revenue that would be generated from both the residential and commercial development within Mile High Greyhound Park? Is that a fair assessment? Mm-hmm. So we have not had an ability to update the waterfall scenario analysis because we're missing one clear kind of component to understand where we would be at the end of that 20-year projection, and that is parcel A and parcel B, which still remains undeveloped. However, there will be some activity of going back out to the market to secure a development partner. Once we understand from that development partner what is anticipated to be constructed in the time frame within, so we will be able to update holistically what we anticipate at the end of the 25-year period, what would be the total TIF revenue generation. What is unique about the Mile High Greyhound Park urban renewal planning, Caitlin can help me be able to expound upon this, is that prior to certain state statutes, we have the ability under the Mile High Greyhound Park to turn on the clock per se. That would start the 25-year district time period. When we have, I'm trying to find the appropriate word, but for parcel A and parcel B, the clock for that 25-year period has not started because we have not activated the district for those parcels yet. So when we turn the clock on, we'll have 25 years left for parcel A and parcel B, while there'll be a shorter window of that for the residential. And the hotel site has a different 25-year clock. That was a unique aspect at the time of when it was formed that we had the capability of doing, and that was slated with that district. Did I miss anything with that?
Yeah, just to clarify a little bit, when you're ready, you currently own, the URA owns parcels A and B, and then you would go out for that development partner. So you would pursue a plan amendment, which is what we did with the hotel. You approved a plan, City Council approved a plan amendment to turn on that clock for the hotel parcel, and you would pursue a similar path here once you have a secured development partner and a clear timeline for development in order to maximize that 25 years of TIF. So you would do a plan amendment for parcels A and B.
So that's all to say, it's premature to look at what that waterfall would be until we know holistically what we're going to be developing on parcel A and B to identify that time clock. and see how that then layers with the hotel site and then the existing residential.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. We'll go to Executive Director report, Jason Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to pull up my notes. So for this Executive Director update, I'd like to start with where we stand with CBRE. With CBRE, obviously, you know, we have initiated a contract with them, and we have had a kickoff meeting the week of July 27th, providing them an overview of all of our URAs. CBR is working with our staff through expectations, workflows, and coordination of other needs and support to the related Parcel A and Parcel B disposition efforts that will be going out shortly. We'll be holding what I call bi-weekly meetings and coordination calls with CBRE to be able to advance efforts that we've discussed, particularly in Mahi Greyhound Park as well as Derby. Staying with the conversation around Derby, I highlighted in my last update that we are developing a sponsorship kit to help in supporting the activation of Derby on a number of different fronts. We are continuing to work through that draft sponsorship kit with my colleagues in on the legal team or the legal counsel. And once that is finalized, we'll begin to work through the design and layout that can ultimately then be shared with the URA board as well as our city council. Joe Riley Park, we're continuing to collaborate with Parks, Recs, and Golf on the continued design concept and potential renovations of that park for furthering its activation and utilization by our community. The goal is to submit a proposal to the Adams County for grant applications or our GOCO grant so that we'd be able to apply that as well as potentially some funds from the URA to support the renovations. Derby Blight Study, we are continuing to work through the PUD amendment process that would be associated with that blight study, as well as the study's timing, scope, and boundary considerations. As it currently stands, we're still maintaining our schedule's alignment based off of the conversations that have been had with this URA board as well as the city council and a joint meeting with at that time, the Derby Review Board. And we're hoping to be able to get that scope of work to our procurement team within say next month and a half at the latest. That goes to say the same thing around the Derby PUD amendment. We would bring a third party in to support us in that conversation and development around the vision of what Derby can be, what it should be, and how we go about activation of that through land use and other design implications or implementations. So we are, once again, kind of aligning the process and the schedule for both of those items to go out and hit the road at the same time because they will speak to one another. Mahi Greyhound Park, you heard me talk around the RFP for parcels A and B. Like I said, CBRE will be supporting us in that effort in being able to help solicit, secure, and go through our procurement process for a development partner. And then last but not least, I'd like to be able to share around the Mercado de Derby event that was held at Derby. We had an estimated attendance of 280 to 300 participants in our first weekend. We had around 13 Derby District businesses that participated with in-store promotions. We had 16 total tented vendors, 10 were Commerce City vendors, 12 were women-owned businesses, and 13 Spanish-speaking vendors. 2 were veteran-owned, 2 were cottage food vendors, 7 artisan, and 1 produce. We had 7 community organizations, nonprofits participate, and we had 2 live bands and 1 DJ. Food service, we did not have any external food vendors, so we're continuing to have internal discussions about how we can get that particular section of our community activated to participate in that event. But I would say just in the lead up of that first event for that entire month, we had approximately 2,000 engagements on Facebook in lead up to that, of just kind of informing the community where we're at, what we're doing, and to come be a part of it. Instagram, we had almost 10,000 engagements with our community in marketing the event, or just profile content views, around 300 direct engagements with residents. Direct mailers, we sent around 2,000 full color postcards to households within a 2-mile radius of the event. And then from a website, we had around 752 visits. 696 of those were unique, 1,200 page views. Citywide marketing, we had 6 large promotional banners placed at key parks and trails. I think that's all generally to say. Very robust marketing and branding and pushing out of Mercado de Derby for the first event out into our community. And, we continue to positively position this item out, given that this is what we believe is an activity that meets the underlying goal of the URA to remove blight and to change the perceptions and the behaviors of how people view Derby. So for the first day out, 280 to 300 is not bad. We hope to continue to grow that. And these are just some of the metrics that we are tracking, or our vendor is tracking on our behalf.
Thank you. Commissioner Dukes, you have a question for Executive Director?
Thank you, Executive Director Rogers, for the update and also for the data. I would encourage everyone, as we think about school districts in Adams County, like if we can push out some more opportunities for our residents to come to Mercado de Derby. It's coming up in a Sunday, so Sunday is another opportunity where there will be more vendors and more people there. But also I want to put a pin in it around us having a celebratory opportunity in the near future. Maybe it's some type of event to highlight and showcase all the activity and do a recap of everything that's happening over the past year in Derby. As we know, this is one of the priorities we've talked about, and to see it start to come to life in terms of activation and things happening, I love for us to show that to our community. Sometimes we keep moving, but the fact that we have the streets going to be the streets going to be repaved, we have a market down there, we have opportunities to redo the park. There's so many things that are happening, so I love it for us to have a moment with the community to say this is something that's coming to life.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the report. What did you say the anticipated receipt of the blight study is?
The blight study, let me get back to my notes. We anticipate going onto or hitting the street with the RFP within the next month and a half. The blight study in of itself is obviously going to be.
Okay, so we're just at
determined
RFP.
based on response. Yes,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So we're just at the RFP stage right now.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that earlier. I do think the Mercado sounds like a great idea for activating the space. And it sounds like the engagement was quite good, so that's great. I won't be in town this weekend, so I won't get to join you all, but I think that that kind of activation sounds great. And then CBRE is helping with the parcels A and B in Greyhound.
Yes, the disposition of those properties. Previously, we had an arrangement with SRS Consulting as our broker on the sale and the marketing and the positioning of those in the development community to ultimately bring proposals that met the long-term vision for A and B back to the URA for consideration, and then to enter into a purchase and sale.
So you were looking to, the goal is to sell them to the developer, not have them developed and maintained or retained by the
That is correct.
URA. Okay, thank you. Those were my questions.
Thank you. Okay, Vice Chair Noble.
Thank you very much. I wanted to also let the other members know that I passed this along to our executive director, but while I was at the market, it was brought up to me that some folks would like to be involved who don't have the wherewithal yet to be licensed and do the real whole business thing that would allow them to participate in the market. And so we were talking about ideas such as an incubator or some other way of putting them in a category that would allow them to participate because they are here in Commerce City and they want to participate in the market. So I know you're working on that, and look forward to hopefully some good news in that arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Commissioner Henson?
Thanks. Yeah, regarding the Mercado, I was wondering, I don't know if this fits the intention of it, but if this is this intended to be a year-round activity? No, it's seasonal?
Yeah.
It is seasonal, yes, ma'am. I don't have the contract in front of me, but we have a select identified number of dates that will run through the month of October. That will give us an ability to assess the good, the bad, the indifferent,
Right.
and then think about how we then continue to position it for future years on. So.
And is food security something that are there opportunities for food security support for residents as part of the Mercado?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Oh, great. I didn't know, I don't know all the players who participated or what the intention was. I haven't been fully briefed on it, so thank you.
I think the best way to put it is looking at this as a melting pot of opportunity to connect a number of different diverse groups in our community, whether you're a nonprofit, an NGO, or a taxing entity, or a local government, or private business. I think we're trying to welcome and to try to foster an environment or an atmosphere to where there is that cross collaboration, discussion, and connection to the members of our community broadly. So I think when we've been approached by those of interest, there are opportunities for us to connect them with our vendor and to get them into that process to become a licensed participant.
Okay.
But I think as we continue to work in the broader community, if you all have individuals that are interested in wanting to further grow this, then I would say please send them to our economic development staff that is more than willing to assist and to guide them through that step-by-step process to get them to be a part of that next engagement opportunity at Mercado.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Dukes?
Yeah, just to follow up, one of the exciting pieces was the Real Food Market was there through the Hispanic Restaurant Associations and was working with the Hope Center.
Fabulous.
And it was exciting because they were across the street next to the Anything Library. And as you cross the street on 72nd, you see the haircut, the barbershop there was engaged with free cuts for back to school. And then you go around the corner and you see the Derby Street lined up with more of vendors and music and food. So, and then if you want to do lunch at El Jardín, like it was this vision of this place really being activated. So I'm glad you asked that question because when you're down there, you'll see just this growth. And to Executive Director Rogers' point, it can only get bigger and more engaged, and it's a great opportunity for the see. It was nice to see that area.
Great, thanks.
All right, any other questions? Okay, it's 6:26, seeing no further business, I will adjourn the URA meeting and reconvene as the council study session. Thank you. Thank you for those members being here today.
Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you. Missed you last week at dinner.
Which one? Probably not if it's since I came down here.
Ms. Kathy?
Okay. Okay. I need to see if I can even do it from here.
Together at the Casa del Rey. I did, yes, we did. Lynn and I spoke.
right into it.
Okay, because by the time the basket got to us, there was one more. So we're like, oh, this was one.
Yeah, well, they said we couldn't talk business.
Yes.
That's true.
Hi, I love that color dress. Thank you. All right.
Good to see you twice in a short period of time.
too. We'll see you later.
By the end of the day, I was like, I know I was over the beat. It was, yeah, it would have been different if we were inside a second to have at least the conversation, but it totally made sense why we weren't. So. But yeah.
It was productive, though. I'm glad to hear it.
A lot of great ideas.
I know, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'll call the study session back to order. Up next is a presentation. Second quarter 2026 financial report. I'll invite Teresa Wilson, Director of Finance, forward to introduce and do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, City Councilors. It's a pleasure to be in front of you tonight to present the Q2 2026 financial report. So this first page of the report summarizes general fund financial activity for Q2. I do just want to point out a few quick things on this page. Under taxes, sales and use tax collections are through May only due to the lag in having sales and use taxes remitted to the city. That's a normal thing. We do still have what I call the ARPA effect going on with our general fund financials. So within the intergovernmental revenue line item, that now includes our ARPA carryover that we're continuing to spend down that ARPA funding between now and the end of the year. And on the expenditure side, ARPA is impacting the general administration line, the economic and community vitality line, and the finance line. Overall, revenues and expenditures are all trending according to budget, as we would expect. So there's no concerns to highlight as far as performance to budget. Bottom line, revenues are down compared to Q2 of last year by $1 million, and expenditures are up compared to Q2 of last year by $6.9 million. That's not surprising at all based on what we budgeted to accomplish this year. So there's no concerns to highlight there. Are there any questions about this first page before I move on?
You board members have any questions? See none, you go ahead and go. Thank you.
Wonderful. Getting into general fund revenues, through Q2 of 2026, sales and use taxes have increased by 7.79% over Q2 of 25. So we're continuing to see really good performance in the sales and use tax revenue front, which is great news. The stacked bar graph in the middle shows a 4-year historical comparison on an annual basis of general fund revenues compared to how we're performing in this current 2026 year through Q2. So nothing to really highlight there. It's just a really nice graphic to show that comparison of how we're trending this year compared to past performance. At the bottom, you'll see a tax revenue comparison for 2025 annual for the whole year compared to how we're trending on the right through Q2 of 2026. I will quickly point out that building use tax is trending a little down compared to last year. Audit revenue is continuing to trend up. Vehicle use tax and property tax are trending down. With property tax, I think it's just the timing of when we receive tax payments from the county, so I'm not concerned about that at this point in time. Sales and use tax is trending up. Other taxes are trending up. And franchise fees are right on par with where they were last year. So just to run through that as a comparison to Q2 of last year. Any questions about this page before I move on?
Seeing none, nope.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Yes.
We have a lot of dispensaries in Commerce City. Other communities have been seeing a downturn in revenues from the dispensaries. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, I will say in my tenure here with the city, we saw a pretty good spike of marijuana tax revenue during COVID, and that has continued to trend down since then. We're getting less marijuana tax revenue from the state now due to changes they've made to balance the state budget. And we've also had a couple dispensaries close, so we have a couple fewer than we used to before.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a question on those closures. Where were those closures?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Most likely in the core, though. We only have one up north. Well, I can't say that because we off of 96 in Dallas. Yeah. So when you get information, if you can send it out to us, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the next page, sales and use tax, as I mentioned before, is up 7.79% compared to Q2 of last year. This increase is due to continued increases in sales tax being remitted from remote sellers and internet sales. And we've also seen an increase in the number of taxpayers paying use tax, and we've continued to perform very well in the area of audit revenue. The bar chart in the middle shows a historical comparison through the first half of the year compared from 2022 to 2026, and we break that out by the 1% 2K revenue and the 3.5% base sales tax revenue, so you can see how those two categories are trending. The bottom graph on the bottom is one of my favorite ones. It really shows the comparison from one year to the next at an industry level. So the retail sector includes online sales, so you can see that continuing to trend up in 26, which is the last bar on each industry section on that bar graph. The other section includes medical offices, agricultural, arts and entertainment, and education services. And then in the manufacturing section, we're definitely trending up there due to one large audit payment that we received at the beginning of the year. It has helped that show a spike so far this year. Any questions about that page before I move on?
Councilmember Teeter?
Yeah, well, why did the wholesale tax drop?
Wholesale? That is not one I looked into directly, mainly because it's kind of even across all years, so I didn't pay a lot of attention to that, but I could look into that. That's the second grouping on the right.
Right, yes. Didn't drop very far, but it's down from last year.
Yeah. And it's right on par with the year before, but I can look into that and find out what is dropping there.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Dukes?
Going to the marijuana tax here, I know there was a spike right after or during COVID, but it looks like it's been consistent. Is this the new watermark when we think about marijuana revenue?
I think so, based on what I've been seeing. I do know that we have had a couple dispensaries that have closed. We have also had dispensaries that have struggled remitting sales tax to the city, just on a business entity level. And then, that spike we saw during COVID, I would assume it's because we had more people at home all the time that needed something to do. But we have definitely seen a downward trend. And then the state is also not sharing all of that revenue that they have in the past moving forward. So that's part of it too.
Yeah. I guess looking at this chart, it looks like we're higher than we were at this point last year. Right? Is that how I'm reading it? But it's not as high as 2 years ago.
Right.
Right. So is this the new, you think this is probably the watermark versus like 2 years ago?
I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see it trend down, because other surrounding jurisdictions, there's more competition, as I believe Brighton now has dispensaries as well. And that didn't used to be the case a few years ago, so it could be the neighboring competition is another factor.
And can you explain the state revenue, how they're shifting dollars to cover state costs versus what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. As one of the measures the state has taken to balance the state budget, one thing they have done is marijuana tax revenue that they used to share with locals, they are no longer sharing that with local governments. They are using that to help fund education. At the state level.
So how much were we counting on or receiving from the state those prior years?
Last time I looked into it and talked to our tax manager about that, it was between 80 and 90,000 a year.
Okay.
So not huge, but every little bit helps, right?
That's right. Councilmember Teeter?
Yeah, just, they changed the law back east in Iowa, and there's a lot of people that I know they weren't supposed to be doing it, but they were coming to Colorado and going back home with it. So that's probably made a big difference, because now they can get it back there.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you very much. So we have retail, that's doing well. Online, Suncor, grocery stores, all those would be considered retail, correct?
Not all of those. Suncor
Not
is
what?
not retail. Suncor is not retail.
What category does that fall in then?
I believe it's in manufacturing. But I can confirm that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. On the next page, I wanted to mention that building use tax is showing a decrease in '22. This is primarily due to two unusually large projects that we had permitted in '25 that did not occur this year. So it's not necessarily a surprise that we're seeing a downward trend in building use tax in '26 compared to '25. '26 building use tax is right on par with what we experienced in '24, though. The two pie charts in the middle, on the left, we have sales and use tax revenue by industry on an annual basis for all of 2025 compared to how we're trending thus far in 2026 through Q2. Not really any surprises there or much to highlight. In the manufacturing category, you will see that one large audit payment that we've received, and if you go down to the stacked bar chart, that's also why the maroon section for general use tax is a bit bigger than it was compared to Q2 of last year. So that's that significantly large audit payment impacting that and driving that up. And then at the bottom, you'll see that line graph that we like to include to show overall trend performance on an annual basis. Any questions about that page before I move on?
Seeing none, thank you.
Great. Moving on to general fund expenditures. We have 6 expenditure categories that we compare in the stacked bar chart. The number at the top of each stacked bar is the total. So this shows a 4-year comparison for 22 to 25 on an annual basis compared to how we're trending thus far halfway through the year for 2026. Just a really nice graphic to display that. We'll continue to see those expenditures tick up as each quarter goes by, but nothing, unusual or concerning to point out there. Any questions about that page?
Councilmember Cheater.
Yeah, what is debt service?
Debt service within the general fund is for the COP issuance that we have remaining that we're paying this building off. So that is handled directly out of the general fund as a COP issuance compared to revenue bonds. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Continuing on with general fund expenditures, the 2 pie charts at the top of this page compare the 2025 annual picture compared to how we're trending thus far halfway through 2026. A lot of similarities there. And then in the middle of the page, we have a stacked bar chart that compares annual activity. This is a historical Q2 comparison. So comparing the first half of the year for each of the years pictured here. So you can see the changes as our expenditure growth has continued, as the city has continued to grow overall. General fund expenditures for Q2 of '26 are up $6.9 million compared to Q2 of the same period in '25, but trending well according to budget, so no concerns there on a budget basis. The large increases for '26 are largely due to spending in the citywide computer allocation as we've added technology to the city within the police department and other areas, and then contract services and services related to ARPA are driving those increases. Any questions about that page before we move on to the capital expenditures fund? Great.
Thank you.
All right, on the capital expenditures fund, this table has a really nice comparison, just like the general fund, comparing current year activity through Q2 to budget, as well as comparing to last year. If you look at total revenues, we have a lot more budgeted than spent. A lot of that is due to intergovernmental revenue that we have budgeted in the form of grants that gets spent down over time. We wouldn't expect all of that grant revenue to be completely recognized on an actual basis by the end of the year. And then if you look at, through Q2 of this year, we've spent 4.6 million in total, or gotten 4.6 million in revenues relating to capital projects compared to 4.5 million almost last year. So very similar. On the total expenditure side, we've spent 19.7 million in capital projects through the first half of the year compared to 13 million last year. So we've really stepped up expenditures around capital projects with all the great activity going on around the city. And then on the next page, we show the two pie charts similar to what we do for the general fund, comparing 25 annual activity to how we're trending thus far through 2026. And then we break down in the stacked bar chart expenditures by department. And that is followed by a narrative of project updates of things going on in the city. I will not read through all those, but if you have any questions, we do have staff that can respond to those. And then the final page is just links to where you can find more information. So that is the quick run through the Q2 report this year, and we look forward to getting another quarter under our belt.
All right. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much. I want to go back to the capital project fund page that we skipped over. It looks like the Excel spreadsheet. Oh, that one. So I see that community development is down, public works is down, little increase in parks and rec, and information technology is down. Looks like we have a $960,000 in the city manager project fund for capital projects. Could you please explain what capital projects occur under the city manager's budget?
We're pulling that up so that we don't misspeak. It's large. We have the 2K contingency in that category along with our art funds that we budget. And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
we have the public art category falls in there that we budget those funds for, along with the 2K project contingency. What's left of that is budgeted there within that 960,000. And we also have, did you say the SEP funds? The SEP funds in Channel 8 relating to PEG fees. So it's just a bunch of little miscellaneous things that add into that 960,000.
And 2K doesn't have its own category for expenditures?
2K projects are largely within either Parks, Rec, and Golf or within Public Works, but we do have a small remaining contingency amount from the original 2K funds, and that is categorized under the city manager's office because the city manager controls spending of that and approves that with informing council about that as we go.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Sure, Councilmember Goriola.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a way, again, thank you for all the work you've done, and this is good. On the last page of the narratives, is there a way we could attach the dollar amount to the titles of each one? I think that would help. Great brief description, but then this is kind of what we've been talking about. City Manager Rogers is, boom, we're spending $800,000 for the widening of 96.
Would you like to see the current budget associated with that as well as the expenditures?
I think just the final number of what we're actually, so when residents ask us is like, no, we spent $800,000 for 5th, 6th Avenue.
Okay. Yeah,
So.
we can look to do that,
Cool, thank you.
of course.
All right, any other questions? Councilmember Trujillo?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. Going back to what Councilman Guardiola mentioned about the numbers, I do think it might make sense to include the amount budgeted and then the total to date, right, expenditures. I think that would be helpful.
Great.
Councilmember Dukes?
Thanks again. Just based on your experience in other cities as well, I agree with adding a dollar amount, but I'm also curious on, would it be helpful to break this up by citywide? Thinking like wards specifically, like if there's a chart that says Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4. Not a recommendation yet, but I'm curious, our effort is to say, how are we as transparent to our residents to show equity across our city? And I wonder, is that something that you would recommend?
I think we need
Teresa,
to.
if I may,
Yeah.
you already have access to that. It's your CIP dashboard that breaks it into wards, that breaks out the entire budget, that breaks down what's spent, breaks down the different phases. So, while you're looking at I think if you're looking for more robust information, I think, to me, the question goes to, how do I elevate the CIP dashboard more visibly to convey a lot of the things that you're asking to be added to the back of this report?
And City Manager, thank you for sharing that. I think it's twofold. One is the dashboard, which has a robust a number of projects. When we look at this one page, I'm thinking about what does that look like in a simple one pager like we have it here. While the dashboard is really robust, just thinking about this one pager here, if you add that, would that make sense?
I just wanted to quickly point out that the dashboard link is the last link on this final page so that you have access to that directly. When it comes to attaching additional budget detail to this page, we're not listing every single capital project that's currently in the works. We're listing the big ones that have a lot of activity that are going on. So I think we would need to consider that. We're just trying to provide highlights here to keep this report easily digestible. But Jason's absolutely right. The dashboard is where we can get a lot more information. So I think we just need to balance that.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not. The dashboard is important, but going back to your point about highlights in this one page, would it be beneficial to show this by ward with the highlights, just this page? Or yes, or are you saying stick with the dashboard?
I mean, we could definitely add ward to this list for reference and include budget and actual information. Just if you added all that together, it might not total what you see on the main summary page because we're not listing every single project.
Okay, that's fine. My question is really like, if you added wards, if you broke this into wards on this highlight, would that be helpful? And it sounds like it's more complicated than that, but I'm like, how do we just have this one page or highlights and say, here's what wards would be?
So, don't want to respond on the spot because I think part of it is obviously there's a lot of work that goes into this report, and I understand wanting to highlight particular work that's being done within each ward.
Well, no, just on this one page.
Yes.
This one pager.
Yes, but I guess what I'm saying is that there's still some additional resources and work that would have to be to perfect just that one page above that pulls in other departments, other groups. So not saying that it can't, but I don't know what that expenditure of time and that resource is to be able to highlight as opposed to just adding the total budget on these highlights.
I guess I'm stuck on it because if I look at this one pager and I say 96th Avenue and you say this is in ward, what ward is that? 3, right? And you say 56, what ward is that? 1 and 2, right?
So I guess that's helpful context because it wasn't clear on what the desired outcome was, how you were trying to have this page set up. If you're looking at it from a list or if you were looking at it from a map, that wasn't coming across clear because I think that's where us as staff were taking that.
Yeah, and this is why we have study sessions, right? We have these discussions and I appreciate it. I guess my lens is like, how do we make, really come at a simple lens visual from this list here, highlights. Often we hear about projects in this highlight that aren't across the city. Adding in dollar amounts makes sense, but then the extra step to say we bucket these into the wards that they're falling into, so people make a visual like you're in Ward 2. These are the 3 projects, or not. I guess that's my question. If it's too complicated,
No, I think with how you have clarified that you're looking at a very simpler layout of the one page for these highlights from a ward perspective, as opposed to something I think, as like I said, we were looking at more robust. I think that's a different conversation for us to be able to have and come back to you at the end of the Q3.
and I put it out there as a discussion for the whole council, if that makes sense. I don't want to give you more work, but I'm curious from my colleagues, does that make sense to you all as well?
Yeah, something simple.
I agree it would be helpful.
Oh.
And anything that makes it simpler for us, the better. I'm looking at the map right now, and I see 2 flags or 2 cones on Tower Road. One says it was, the paragraph talks about getting funding, coming to the council for funding in 2025, but it doesn't say what happened. And another one is for a Tower Road Bridge at Third Creek. And I don't know that we've discussed that necessarily either, and that has estimated end date. Both of them are horizon. So the map is great to show all the things that need to happen, but in terms of what's actually going on, this one pager would just be really, really helpful. It doesn't have to be fancy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it doesn't have to
Yeah, just something that shows where we are.
Like, appreciate that. Like I said, the context helpful for us.
Progress.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Dukes and Mayor Pro Tem. I also agree that having that information would be helpful. And going back to, it sounds like your original ask, Councilmember Dukes, was from an equitable lens, right? And so just making it a lot easier for us to highlight to the community, hey, these are the projects that took place in quarter such and such, right? And this is the amount that we have expended to date and what we have budgeted for. Recognizing that some of these are overlapping into different wards. I guess one question I do have is, since this is not an exhaustive list of the CIP projects, how do these ones get chosen for this one pager?
City Manager Rogers.
It really is just to highlight the big projects going on and projects that had activity so far this year. So we're trying to, really reference the big things and not necessarily the small things.
Okay, yeah. This is, think of this as a talking point for us, right?
Absolutely.
To the community. And I think that's the overall goal here that we are trying to accomplish. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, I do like this. I asked about this a while back, putting these on a map so you can highlight them, and this is great. You can go in there and actually see, when you click on the asphalt mill overlay for 2026, it highlights where those were actually done in the wards. All these do. So I do appreciate that layout, and I think our citizens could actually benefit from this. Is there a tutorial or something like that they could actually go on and help them figure this out?
I think the dashboard has been rolled out for a while. I know we did some advertising of it when it rolled out, but
Dashboard's been out for a while. I believe there's a user guide that helps individuals kind of understand the construction of it, the layout, and how to be able to navigate the material and the information that's contained within it. And that's the dashboard, and then there's a separate link to the map itself.
Okay, well, thank you very much. No other questions, we'll go on to, I'm sorry, Teresa, were you done?
we'll definitely take this feedback and work with the city manager's office on making improvements for the third quarter.
Okay, appreciate that. All right, up next, presentation 26-146, 2027 budget session with Jason Rogers, City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Before I turn it over to our budget manager, Chris, to take you through the presentation, I think it's always important to kind of share some initial thoughts as it pertains to the presentation of the city manager's budget of recommendations to the council. And so as I just stated, as required by the charter and statute, finance on my behalf will be presenting council with the city manager's recommendations for the 2027 budget. Starting with the city council's strategic plan refresh and budget priorities from the retreat in March. That really served as a foundation for establishing the base budget and considerations across broad-ranging activities. In May, with the budget primer and the proposed CIP program that you discussed in June, it further aligned the upcoming budget with the foundation set in March. Tonight, the budget recommendations and decision package affirms the foundation and presents a fiscally responsible proposal to meet the level of service for residents and community needs while acknowledging the accountability to our long-term financial sustainability. So I am pleased to have our staff make this presentation to you and look forward to discussion. So, Mr. Johnson, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, City Manager Rogers. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for another opportunity to present in front of you. This is the first time we've talked on the general fund budget since our meeting in May 11th. So I always like to start with just a fund balance review as a nice grounding spot. This is through council actions so far this year, leaving us with a general fund balance of just over 49 million and a 2K restricted fund balance looking at 12.6 million. This source and use is the entirety of the general fund put together. This exact same setup was presented to you guys in May. There's been some small changes on the revenue side. We have been following our sales and use tax data, and as Teresa has pointed out in the quarterly report, it's trending well, so we were able to add some to our sales and use tax projection, as well as a few other tax line items, which increased this to 162 million on your far right side there for our 27 proposed revenue. On the expenditure side, we've had some small changes through there. We did a salary refresh with our position budgeting system, which caught up to any merit raises that were given out through Q2, as well as a couple contract increases, and most notably in the public safety line items, as well as we were able to meet with our brokers and get updated health insurance line item or health insurance projections for 2027, which are now incorporated in the total expenditures column of just over 140 million there. With our transfers out, those have remained the same, except the only change here is we have now incorporated the capital expenditure fund transfers that we spoke about on July 20th when we went over the capital investment program with you all. For the rest of them, when you add up our revenues as well as expenditures for the total city, we are looking at a $1.4 million surplus heading into the 2027 year. Next thing we're going to talk about is the decision package proposals, which is our system for seeking out budget enhancements. Every year we try to do a thoughtful and data-driven approach to the funding of these requests. This year we had some important factors also, as we went over with you on May 11th, the long-term financial plan projection showing that there is a structural deficit within the 10-year outlook, though in the outer years. We also had to consider the funding capacity for the capital priorities, which we discussed at the last session. And then as this will be the final year for ARPA dollars within Commerce City's budget, we had to look at all the programs that those dollars were funding and decide what to extend through the new year. So there was a lot of tough decisions made with a lot of grounding and outlook, financial outlook given from the long-term financial plan. This next page has a list of the approved decision packages approved by the city management. You could see there's several from the city manager's office, including one that pertains to PD and our public safety hiring, some information technology items, as well as some Parks and Rec positions and Public Works positions to help continue to meet the city's desired level of service. On the next page, we get to break down between the city's general fund as well as the 2K restricted. This is why kind of the decisions were so thoughtful and so thought out this year. There was definitely a goal to keep the city services at a standard level, as well as keep our remaining unassigned fund balance at a healthy level that we could preserve. You can see as we break it down on the general fund side, our sales and use tax, along with other revenues and operating allocation, and then we take out the operations as well as our debt service and elected officials transfers, and included in these numbers is the approved decision package as well as our CIP transfer, and we're looking at a dip into fund balance of around 5.6 million. And then on the 2K side, our sales and use tax, along with operations dedicated towards 2K, as well as the CIP transfer and a small amount of the approved decision package, we're looking at a 4.9 million surplus heading into the next year. Starting last year, we've been making the effort to show you guys all the other funds within the city before we get to adopting the budget. The funds on your page are what we call our internal service funds. The expenses within these funds are all wrapped in the general fund as we showed you. So if you're ever looking at a general fund budget, you'll see allocation line items. They pertain to our 4 internal service funds, them being fleet, facilities, information technology, as well as benefits, which for the primary expenditure and benefits is our health insurance costs. So you can see how these have all wrapped up. The allocated charges for services are how they are expended out to the departments, and then some of them, like benefits, has a small charge for service as we as staff pay into that fund as well. This is the capital expenditures fund put together based off the conversations on July 20th, as we looked to have around 18.7 million in projects funded with our CIP specific revenues, as well as some transfers in. These are some of your other funds: Solid Waste Conservative Trust, which is also known as Lottery, our elected officials retirement fund, as well as water. A lot of these are just have transfers out to the capital investment program to support those projects. Looking at our impact fees, you can see we have several different kinds. These are wrapped up out of their benefit districts into the totals for parks, roads, drainage, and facilities, as well as a small transfer out to CIP. And then this is our debt service fund, different than the COPS that Teresa was talking to earlier, which are wrapped inside the general fund. These debt service transfers are our revenue bonds, so our 2016s, or 2026s, and now 2022 A, B, and C are the ones paid out with there. A small transfer from the URA Prairie Gateway helps pay off these funds, as well as a small reimbursement from Cronky Support Services. This slide should be pretty familiar to you as we get into the legislative budget itself. This is just a breakdown of the 26 and 27 legislative budget. It should be pretty much the same, minus some maybe small changes in salaries and services and charges as the allocations shift a little as we redo everything to show your legislative budget as it stands now heading into 2027. As well as that, we have our year-to-date at a glance of our career development spending between the council members, as well as our sponsorship program and how we've been spending that in the year 2026. As always, these numbers are always changing. We have some final changes to do that will be brought back at the budget workshop in early September. We will look to do our final position budgeting refresh, incorporating of a vacancy savings factor. We started that process last year and it has so far worked pretty well, so we're looking to incorporate that again, which will shift these numbers. We'll also do the internal service fund and 2K allocation update, as well as we have some contract items that leak in from now towards the end of the year to update those amounts. And then we'll look to incorporate and continue the general fund transfer of opioid funding to the URA to continue a Bridge House contract, if it is so the desire of this council. And then we are always meeting with the economic development team and looking at the data as it comes in. So we will have an opportunity to do final revenue revisions as we head to budget adoption. The next calendar, most likely our next meeting will be on 9/14 for the council budget workshop, and then we will look to open and adopt the budget later in the year. That was a lot, so I will leave it up for discussion now.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have some questions here. Any council members have questions? Mayor Pro Tem Noble?
Thank you very much. Back on. Weeks. I noticed that from 2025 to the proposed 2027, that public safety has increased by almost $10 million. It's almost a 30% increase. Could someone please explain what these additional funds are for?
A lot of those will be wrapped up into the allocations. The technology pieces, as they have advanced, have increased the police department budget on that. The facility allocations already actually have increased as well as they've taken over more of this building. So we shift the methodology because we go by square footage. So that increased their budget a little bit, as well as the FOP contract and incorporating new positions, as well as the raises and starting points in the FOP. Yep.
Is it typical for a police department to be about a third of the overall budget?
I would have to look into that more with competing jurisdictions.
Thank you for that question, Mayor Pro Tem. It's not uncommon that, I won't say a particular percentage of a budget, but it's not uncommon to see a substantial portion of your budget to be encompassed by your public-facing heavy operations such as your PRG, your PW, as well as your PD. And given that we have a significant number of officers and appropriated positions, as well as the technology in support of that, that's why you're seeing the scope and scale. A lot of the resources, like for PW, you're going to find within their fleet or other internal service funds outside of just some of their basic operations. So I think you have to look at it from a number of different perspectives, particularly what the resources and the tools are being used.
Well, I'm just trying to take into account everything because I don't think this includes the tens of millions for the substation.
That is going to be in your capital improvement program fund.
Right. So we're making a very large investment in our public safety program.
I think that's a fair assessment to be made, that yes, there's been a continual investment by this council or by the council seated at the time in expanding public safety. I think obviously as we've been tasked, we're trying to balance that with other needs as well, but yes, generally speaking.
Well, I will appreciate seeing the report in the fall on the crime situation and how it's improved. Thank you.
Any other council members? Got a question on insurance, health insurance. Are we about the same? Did we trend up a little bit as far as cost?
I think we had a 14% increase from the last year when consulting with our broker.
All right. And then we are now supposed to get credit back for our recycling starting in June. Where does that fall in on one of these line items?
That is still being worked through, but you're correct. Through the new state program, they've selected a provider that manages that program to provide reimbursement for recycling costs, but residents should be getting recycling for completely free, and meaning that the city, since we currently pay for trash collection, we would get that reimbursement back. We're still working through those numbers and how that program works since it's so new, but that will be coming forward. That would show up as revenue into the general fund. And then we would fully budget for the entire contract with Republic Services on the expenditure side. But there would be a positive impact to that by getting that revenue for the city.
All right, so in September, would it also show, I mean, based on contract, I did see what we're allocating, was it almost $1.5 million solid waste fee. So within that solid waste fee of $1,400,000, just trying to figure out what the amount would be for recycling each year, because it's going to go up as well.
If you're referring to this fund, the solid waste management fee that
Yes.
we get here is not related to our trash service. This
Okay.
is related to an agreement with the city and Republic Services that allows them, it's a basically contribution to the city for allowing their trucks to run on our roads.
Gotcha.
The
Okay,
tip, is that
That makes
what we call the tipping fee?
Yes.
okay. That's gone up quite a bit from previous years. And then on page 13, it says KSS, this would be KSE?
Perhaps, it might be
That would be the KAC reimbursement.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you for the presentation. If you go to the next steps, I would love if you can give us all just a quick overview of what to expect for the council budget workshop. As we start doing a community engagement, I want to be clear on, listening to the community around their needs, because this is where, again, the workshop will help set the tender for what we want to do in 2027.
Yep, the council budget workshop is, it's an important date it's kind of the summary of all these steps that we put together. We've gone in front of you a couple times, bringing the budget and then the CIP, that kind of puts it together in one place. We'll go over the priorities in each department's budget again, but it's basically the chance, on our side, it's kind of the last call, if you would, like where we're like, all right, this is what we're gonna bring back in October. So it's a good opportunity to kind of reflect on what we've done, see if there is any changes needed, and then that is where we will bring back for adoption.
Thank you.
Because the first call was back in May, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, both of you, for doing the presentation. Okay, let's see. Well, this is pretty early here.
If I may, Mayor.
Yes.
Obviously, as you saw on the screen, we have I think one of the things that we are exploring, just kind of, once again, as you're saying, anchoring expectations. Obviously, we valued, obviously, the conversations that I would say not just started in May, but actually back to your roundtable in March at your retreat around the strategic plan refresh and the budget priorities, and us, building off of that to what you see here today. What I'm hearing from this group is there's not a need for us to come back next week to dive further into the conversation that was just held, but to come into that budget workshop with obviously the particular department heads with making presentations with respect to their own budget, talking through those details as you all continue to digest what you all received tonight. And I think what we will be switching up potentially is going from that 9/14 budget workshop to actually that 11/02 meeting with the actual budget adoption. Now, we've always had an initial open public hearing on the budget in October, and then to simply continue that to the November date, and that's particularly to publicize the accessibility of the draft budget for our community. I think there's a number of different ways. Now, that's the way we've always done it and how we've always done it for more than a handful of decades. The reason why I bring that up is that there's new ways of being able to engage and connect our community to that budget if they want to provide feedback and still provide comment at that public hearing in November, to where that even that October date, once again, I think we can be a little bit more forward-thinking in that conversation, in that presentation, and getting the message out to our community that this document is available for them to review, than just the simple, we've done this, and the reason why we've done this, like I said, goes back decades. I think we can approach it very differently, in my mind. But once again, I share that with you. If there's a desire to keep the October date, we can, but I'm just thinking that that between that September to that November, depending on where those conversations go, my team may need that time as opposed to trying to rush 1 month out. But while still, the community will have the opportunity to engage with you all before anything is finally adopted and submitted to the state.
Okay. Is council okay taking a preliminary budget session off of the 17th?
Next week.
Yep. You okay with that? All right.
And then the other question is whether or not you would all like to retain the opening the hearing on the 19th and continuing it to the November date. Once again, past practice, there's really no good rhyme or reason outside of wanting to, highlight to the community that this is available, this is the conversation. But once again, I think we live in a very different time and age to where we can still have that same level of touch point in our community than just opening and continuing.
Council okay with that? Councilmember Trujillo?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess what would the additional touch points be then if we did not do that in October?
So the additional, how we have previously done it would be what we would through the workshop in September would be a continuation or for lack of better words, regurgitation of what was discussed in September and October to simply then continue it to November. I would say if we're doing this right, as we've been having these touch points along the way, there shouldn't be any surprises when we get to the September, what comes out of September to what's then presented to you all in November. So the October date was if something substantively came up out of nowhere, that would be a touch point that we would have. But once again, we've been touching on this process, the development of this process, the priorities, the allocations of dollar amounts, the selection of projects well in advance of that workshop. So it's once again a collection of the various discussions in one sitting to get one final affirmation so that we can then continue to prepare that final document, publish that final document, and make that available leading into November.
Okay, I think, obviously this is my first time, so I have nothing to compare it to. The open public hearing, I'm assuming there's a chance for participation by the community at that hearing, correct?
There is a chance for participation at the hearing. We were actually just talking about this earlier. I think in the span of the last decade, we've had only 3 public speakers on our budget come to that public hearing, if that. So once again, I think when we had initially had started this, there's no requirement to open and to close. It is simply to hold a hearing in one singular hearing. So this was a step of, once again, trying to make the community aware that the budget adoption is forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it from, that was the engine that was driving that first date, whether it's in October or November, it was to, once again, send that flare up to the community. Because then it's when you adopt is where we then start to really kind of get into what is going to be advanced to be submitted to the state. So just a little bit of additional context.
So then I think going back to my original question on what the additional touch points would be is I'm thinking more about community, not necessarily with council.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do not have the October open public hearing, what additional opportunities then, if any, would the community have to comment publicly on
There
this?
is a charter requirement that we have to supply the draft budget document. We do that online as well as put it on file with the city clerk's office. In my history, which has been very long here, I have one time seen somebody come into the city clerk's office and look at the document. And like Jason said, in the last decade, 3 times. But we do meet that charter requirement and make it available. In addition, the finance department is always available to field those calls. And to my knowledge, when I was the finance director, I did not field calls, and Teresa has not fielded calls either, but they are available and could certainly, you know, meet with the community at any time. And then it would be published as part of our regular work schedule publications in every single meeting's packet. So people would know, if we were to make that change, they would know that the November date is the public hearing, and that would be their opportunity to come and speak.
Okay. I'd be interested in what my colleagues think.
You know, the council members have any thoughts? Councilmember Guardiola?
Again, I appreciate the historical examples, but we're also in a different generation, right? Where everybody has a computer and their phone, right? The access. So I see it both ways. I would like to give our community, because if it comes to 11-2 and they have a good suggestion, what do we do? How does that work, right? It's gonna put you guys on notice that they convinced 5 of us to say, you know what, that is a great suggestion. Now you all have to go back. Do we have to go through the process again to revise it and bring it back to council? And then looking at council work schedule, are we gonna be late? And that's my biggest worry about taking that hearing off, Jason, is that it's just that's an opportunity for them to come, and if they didn't come, they didn't come. And on 11-2, we took suggestions, we're opening it, we're closing it, we're adopting it.
Great question. Like I said, I think we can go either way. You know, it's just kind of raising with what we're seeing in pattern. Even if they came on, I think great point here, and Teresa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. What you suggest if they show up on 11-2 wouldn't necessarily be us having to turn over a brand new document. We would just be supplementing our existing process with an appropriation at a future time. So it's still not going to be reflected because of the timeline in which we have constructed, in that we have to then be able to meet the state statutorily in submitting because of that November timeframe. So it would still be addressed, but it wouldn't be until that following year through a separate budget appropriation would we then be able to consume that. So really what you would find is that if there was any, and really that October date really has been more of a launching pad of priorities that have come from the council in the last 4 to 5 years. So what we've tried to do is, once again, advance that earlier in the cycle around the retreat, so that we've already built it in, and that we are minimizing the things that have come out of left field, because you're responding to what you're hearing in the community, we're responding to what we're hearing from you and the community, and we are trying to be progressive in the positioning of the budget in anticipation of that. So that, once again, when you get to the council budget workshop, which is where, if there's truly something that is impactful, it should be brought up. That gives us time to then develop and to build and to then bring into that final budget.
Okay.
And I would just add that it's that 9/14 date that is the most critical for us in finance, as far as finalizing the process and finalizing all the budget materials. By the time we got to the 10/19 or the 11/2 date, we wouldn't be making changes to the budget at that point. We would respectfully request that council adopt the budget as is at that point in time. And if you wanted, based on citizen feedback or community feedback, if there were anything that you decided at the last minute that you would want to incorporate in the budget, we would want to bring that back to you as a budget amendment. Because by the time we get to that stage in the process, there's just realistically not enough time for us to be making any big changes. So it's that 9/14 budget workshop date that we need to leave with any final feedback and changes that we need to make so that we can finalize for the public hearing. And eliminating the 10/19 date would simply give us more time to finalize that process and to do our quality control and reconciliation and final checking and finalizing the budget book. So there would be that benefit to us process-wise as staff. But it's the 9/14 date that's the most critical for us.
See, and so then that's where I think I got an issue with is where do we get the community feedback that people have been asking for? It's kind of backwards, and I'm not a budget person or finance or numbers guy at all, right? I didn't get that part of my family. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, if that's the crucial date, then we should be doing stuff right now and asking for feedback from our residents and our community so we could bring that to you all and say, this is what we're hearing, because how you just explained it, that it's done then. It's not done, right? Because you could always the following year, but then we're missing the mark of what our community is asking us.
So I great question. I would say I don't think we've missed the mark for what our community has asked of us. I think, well, one, the community has elected you all to speak on their behalf to bring forward the concerns and the issues, and we've also had 2 long-term financial plan where we have discussed the budget about and have asked them what are the priorities that they seek within their budget for us collectively to respond to. And when we have looked at that, and when we have looked at that in comparison or in relation to the budget process that we brought forward, there's overlap and there's alignment with what has been discussed with the things that they are prioritized: economic development, public safety, and roadway infrastructure. So there's been a focus and there's been an intentionality, I'll just pick on roadways, both on the maintenance and the operation of it, but also the construction of key identified projects that will help move the needle for them getting from point A to point B. Same thing with public safety. Economic development, we've increased that budget and we've diversified that budget to create opportunity. So there's been a direct response to what we've heard throughout the year individually, but also through the conversations that we've had with you all. And then there's still the opportunity, as we're required by charter and by state law, to have a public hearing for them to be able to digest, review, and to still come to make particular changes. Whether they're captured in this, they ultimately would be captured within that 2027 budget. So there's not a place where they don't have the ability to participate. So, and that may have come out wrong, but they have the place to participate. They have the opportunity to engage. They've had that through you all, and they've had that directly with us here operationally, and in response to the things that they have shared with us directly and what they need to be able to meet their needs and their desires for us as an organization.
Okay, thank you. I have Councilmember Dukes, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilmember Trujillo.
Thank you for the explanation from both sides. I want to try to understand this from what I'm hearing, is that the 1019 is in some way symbolic around the budget. Prior discussions in our roles as somewhat trustees of our being elected, we've been listening and informing, whether it's the retreat or our discussion on the council budget workshop. So in theory, the budget should be reflective of what we're hearing from the community, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm saying, yes, sir.
And then with the symbolic nature of the 1019, it is a launch point to say, based on all of this conversation, here's the actual budget that we're going to move towards adoption, with the understanding that there will be an opportunity to reconcile it even after we're approved in 11-2, right? What I'm not understanding is your point, Teresa, around the operational challenge between 914 and 11-2 that removing this hearing would solve for you internally.
I'm honestly good keeping or eliminating the 1019 date. We have followed this existing process. I will say Commerce City is the 7th local government I've worked for in the Colorado Front Range. The difference here is that we adopt our budget by resolution.
Okay.
Every place else that I have worked adopts the budget by ordinance. Ordinances require 2 readings, resolutions require 1.
Okay.
So I think that gives us the ability to have this conversation and think about how we want to manage the rest of the process. I was just brought into this conversation today, but I see the benefit of keeping 1019, and the benefit of eliminating it is that it does give us internally more time to finalize the budget book in preparation for the 11/2 meeting.
Okay.
So I'm personally good either way, but that is a key difference of how the budget's adopted by ordinance versus resolution and whether 1 or 2 readings is required.
With that feedback, what I recommend is keeping it this year, however, being really communicative around this may phase out next year. And that might be a good hybrid of like systems change. Like, even though there might not be a lot of people who come in, it could still be a good data point to say next year this is going to be modified so people are aware of that transition. That's what I would recommend as we think about both options.
That is completely fine. Like I said, I think just daylighting the conversation as we have it. And I think to Teresa's point, even if keeping the symbolic date of acknowledging this is the budget is proceeding towards it. I think operationally, when we look at that September 14th date, to prepare for October 19th, we're already starting to having to finalize the preparation of the budget and the materials September 24th. So literally within a week, we have to go from what we've heard, potentially additions, subtractions, modifications, and start preparing and finalizing it for that October 19th date to say, here's the budget, residents. Now it's available for you to be able to opine, to share thoughts, to ask questions, and or to prepare yourself to come in November. So I think operation, just getting into it, just so that you can understand that triggering effect that the 14th, then we have a week to then get that document that you will see, or the discussion that you see here, into 600 to 700 pages.
But it's my understanding, this has been the process for a little bit, right?
Yes, I'm just sharing with you, since you asked about the
Yes,
operational
yeah.
challenge of the 14th to the 19th. That's why the 14th is so important, because we then have to hit that 19th date and getting everything in alignment.
So I appreciate the clarification. So what I'm hearing you say is that there is an operational lift internally to have that quick turnaround for a 600-page document that's available error-free for a public hearing.
Correct.
Right? That's a lot of work. And I guess I would still think this year, let's think about how to phase that out, and then we can use that if in fact the 19th is a launching point of hey, here's what the public. This is a great space also to say, hey, here's what we're doing this year, and we may begin to phase out next year. So it serves we feed 2 birds with 1 hand in this case.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Very much. I think part of what's happening here is a little bit of it's a lack of clarity around why we have a retreat in the spring. And the spring retreat is to list the things that are important to the city council project-wise that will go into the budget. That's where it begins. So when you're looking at that summary, if that summary isn't reflecting where you want things to go into the budget, then that's the time to talk about it. If you want other things in the budget, then it needs to come sooner than that. I mean, I'm looking at, one of the things I remember from a Post-it note was tree canopy workshops. Tree canopy, right? Tree canopy workshops, C3 soil education and plantings, grow the community tree canopy program, is going to get $20,000 in approved decision package. That means extra. Somebody asked for something extra, so they're being approved for this extra thing. Police department hiring strategy, that isn't even hiring anybody. That's just strategy. That's $700,000.
If I may, ma'am, that is actually looking at hiring 5 potential employees into,
So that's salaries?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it would be good if it said hiring 5 officers instead of hiring strategy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyway, so that I think is part of the problem here is that this has been done the same way for several years. I remember going to budget retreats that Councilmember Hariola and then Councilmember Douglas did, and there would be items that the city wanted and items that city council wanted up on a big screen, and everybody would be in this room and then sort of figure out where things were going to come down. There really isn't time. What we are asked to do as city council members is approve the budget. That's the language in the charter. And I agree with Councilmember Dukes on having another approach, and I hope that there is another way to do it. I think there are other ways to do it, but this has been the way budgets have been done up to this point.
Councilmember Trio.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everyone's comments. I think what I'm struggling with as a new member of this council is the community engagement piece. While I understand that we are elected and trust is placed in us, we are supposed to be going out to the community, listening, bringing back those priorities, which you all have done a fantastic job at incorporating. But there's a difference between that and a difference between presenting an actual budget with numbers in it, highlighting those priorities for the community to actually visibly see. And I don't see where in this timeline that there is at least enough touch points for the community to see that. I think for this year, in the interest of just moving forward and I guess doing things how it has historically been done, but as we rethink this process, I think for next year, we really need to be thinking about how do we really present an actual draft budget to the community to comment on. And I mean, based on this September 14th date, it sounds like anything after that, it's too late to really change that draft. That doesn't sit well with me, even as a resident. And so I really do just want to think about how do we approach this more thoughtfully next year when we are talking about approving the budget.
Okay, so far I'm hearing, at least from 5 of the council members, including myself, that to keep 1019 on, just as a tradition of opening the budget up and then putting this on the study session, on our retreat next year of how this is going to play out next year when we come to the budget season. Councilmember Dukes.
I'm okay.
Okay. Councilmember Gordillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I think I'm not opposed with the budget process. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think it's fine that we go, the priorities, the presentation that Courtney did, amazing. I think you guys captured what the council wants. I'm struggling, like Stephanie or Councilwoman Trujillo was saying, and I think that's just more of a calendar management, and some of it's on us, of when we could get together earlier, together and work with your staff or City Manager Rogers to give us enough touch points. Because again, I'm not arguing with the stuff in here. You guys did a good job. You guys captured everything we wanted from my perspective. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's the community input, like Councilwoman Trujillo was saying. And maybe that's adding a couple more days during the summer where we have to make ourselves available and work around our schedule. So again, I'm not arguing the process. It's the community involvement. And I think, again, to me, just looking from the outside, it's more of a time and dates to get you guys to where you guys need to be and to actually help us get it out to the community. Thank you.
Councilmember Dukes and then Councilmember Teeter wanted to hear from you.
Well, I think finance pretty much said it. You know, it's the way we do it is by resolution, and the other councils do it by ordinance, and so I mean we're doing everything legal.
Are you okay with keeping 1019 on there?
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
Just as we think about, moving forward, I think what I'm hearing from my colleagues is that we don't need to change this process. We just need to maybe embed it more into like our speak up events, or when we have the music in the park. It could be great to have the, like when we do our council retreat, here are the big buckets. There's no things assigned dollar amount yet, but we can incorporate that into some of our existing events, having tables there, to start generating, I think telling the story that this budget process is a journey that ends in November. I think we can think about how to incorporate that.
Thank you. Yes.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. I know one thing that would really help us, and I love the idea of getting my team more involved in the Speak Up events next year. This year we focused on the long-term financial plan town halls, but that's definitely something we can do moving forward, is getting finance and budget more involved in the Speak Up events moving forward. When I think of community engagement, it's really helpful to know what we want to engage the community on. And if we want to ask specific questions pertaining to the budget, but by the time we have the draft budget prepared, late summer, early fall, that is too late regardless to get community engagement. That really needs to happen in the spring, early summer, because that way we can take that feedback and build it into the process by the time we get to the draft budget. So I think thinking of the budget as a process, we literally start working on the budget in January, and we're still working on it in December. So it is a year-round process for us internally, but I would just have, city management and city council be thinking about what do we want to engage the community on? Because that way we can get an understanding of what that needs to look like, and we can craft questions to ask at Speak Up events, or create, did you know? Like, one thought I have is creating, do you know what the cost of a police officer is to deploy? Do you know what the cost of a street light is? And we can create some really great information, but, we don't want to do community engagement just to check a box. We want to know what specifically we want to engage the community on. And that kind of feedback and direction would be really helpful. And we can follow up and build that more meaningfully into the process next year.
All right, appreciate that. Some cities have a list of capital improvement projects, and they put that list before the citizens, and they kind of take a vote on it to see what the citizens' views are about capital projects moving forward. Councilmember Guardiola.
Thank you for that. And I think one simple one is even a comment we got today of how much we're spending on public safety and public works. Just those pie graphs, I think for folks to see, will give us some direction saying, man, we're spending too much on public safety. Well, if we cut it, this is what's going to cut. Or we're not spending enough. I think those simple engagements with our community could tell us a lot and also could help us say, you know what, look what's happening everywhere about crime and everything, right? We need, and this is how much you're spending. Maybe we need a little bit more. So I think simple stuff like that would help us and help justify our priorities, because public safety was a priority from the retreat. So I'm fine with what you guys have budgeted, because you captured it for us, for me, right? And I think that's important. But getting input from our city saying, do you think that's enough? But this is what it's going to take. So thank you for that. And that's kind of what I would do.
All right. Any last thoughts? Thank you very much. I appreciate your input, what you guys presented to us tonight. And looking forward to our council budget workshop on 9/14. Thank you.
So are we.
All right. It is 7:52. Seeing no further business, I will adjourn this study session meeting and begin the city council special meeting. All right. I will now call the city council special meeting to order and ask the clerk for a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Douglas.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Noble. Present. Councilmember Guardiola.
Present.
Councilmember Teeter.
Present.
Councilmember Sandoval. Councilmember Young. Councilmember Dukes.
Present.
Councilmember Kim. Councilmember Trujillo. Here. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second to excuse members not present.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor is to excuse members not present. We'll ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
And Mayor, we can do this by a voice vote tonight
Sure.
since you're not up at the
No
DS.
problem. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, that passes 6 with 3 excused absences. Okay, next, resolutions. Resolution 2026-113, approving the IGA between the City of Commerce City and the Urban Renewal Authority of Commerce City. Do any council members have any questions for staff? I need a motion second to adopt Resolution 2026-113.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolutions 2026-113.
Okay, the first and the second. Any discussions? Motion on the floor is to adopt Resolution 2026-113. We'll ask I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, motion passes 6 with 3 excused absences. All right. Okay, on the report, City Manager Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Speak Up Commerce City is back at Eagle Point this Wednesday, August 12th. City staff and city council members, by your choosing, will be on hand to discuss a variety of city projects, programs, and updates while we're taking feedback to answer questions. Once again, that will be from 5:30 to 7:30 at Eagle Point on Wednesday. Our Community Wellbeing Division is once again partnering with the American Red Cross to hold a community blood drive on Thursday, August 13th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That would be at the Community Wellbeing offices on the 5th floor at the South Platte Crossing building. I have shared with you all, but to publicly make the community aware, our staff in GIS, IT, as well as in our economic development, have developed an interactive map identifying where food trucks may be able to operate under our current city ordinances. This new tool will help guide discussions around potential ordinance updates, as well as support research into best practices from our neighboring communities. Currently, the map will also serve as a resource for food truck operators and staff in the city to continue strengthening business retention and attraction efforts. Some of you all might be seeing around in our core city and Northern Range in certain communities that the printing and installation of the 20-mile-per-hour signs as part of the 20 is Plenty program is well underway. To a point, we have installed a total of 44 signs and will continue to phase through the city comprehensively through the end of the year into next year. Big thing for us with PW, they're continuing to address a number of different things from 40, on average, 40 potholes, cracks, and asphalt failures a week. For PRG, just a couple of upcoming events starting next month. We've got the Fishing Frenzy Derby out at the Arsenal, Saturday, September 12th from 8 to 11 a.m. And then we've got our standing Fall Fest Saturday, October 17th from 11 to 4, where obviously the things that range from touch a truck, beer garden, live music, arts and crafts, and pumpkin patch will be available to our community. That is all for my report, Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager Rogers, just want to thank you and your team for really taking an initiative, the 20 is Plenty initiative across our city, a part of the State Streets Initiative. This is a great example of the city and your team listening to residents, having a process and beginning to implement resident-led initiatives, which people are thankful for, and I want to just give you a shout out and your team a shout out for listening. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Noble.
Thank you also for the employee appreciation. I keep forgetting. Employee appreciation breakfast last week. That was really interesting. And I was really taken with Rogerio, who is in charge of Parks and Recreation. And he was talking about what pride his team takes in the green grass of the parks. And there is nothing more disheartening to them than seeing the grass die. And he's trying to bolster their spirits and let them know that it's going to be 2 or 3 years before these parks come back. And he said that, you know, I could share the same information with our residents who are probably worried about their own yards. I know my husband is, but it will take some time. So those kinds of conversations that we have with everyone is really great. And I especially love the bingo card. You get a great chance to meet everyone and when you're going table to table to have conversations with everyone. So that was really fun. I was glad the mayor and I could be there. And I do want to bring up something else that just is on the top of my mind. And that is because we're now up to 5 accidents at 119th and Chambers in 2 weeks. And I think I've mentioned before, I'm using an app called Crime Radar that gives the tracks police and fire reports as they come in. This was another injury accident. But what strikes me is that there have not been the same accidents at 117th and Chambers. And 117th and Chambers is where we're talking about putting in a traffic light, yet 119th and Chambers is where people keep colliding with each other. I'm not sure why. I pointed out to someone that 119th is so close to 120th, but then on the other hand, so is 105th to 104th, and that made a huge difference for people coming in and out of King Soopers. So I know that we have light poles coming in for Chambers for 117th, and I don't know if there is still time to think about it or to actually do, you know, or if there has been a traffic study done, an accident study, something that would help inform. It may be 7-Eleven, maybe people coming out of the car wash, people coming out of the storage unit, people cutting through because they don't want to take 120th, they're trying to avoid the corner. All kinds of things could be going on, but that's a lot of accidents in 2 weeks with 2 injury accidents among the 5.
Well, thank you for raising that, Mayor Pro Tem. I do know that our staff is always evaluating crash data to determine whether or not there is a geometric issue with respect to the distance between an intersection and an access point, and or whether or not some of the things that we have in place, such as bringing the light online at 117th and Heartland, will create a relief both upstream and downstream that should effectively address maybe some of the causes behind those traffic incidents. I think that's one of the things that right now, in being able to get that crash data and understanding the particulars behind that crash, were some of these avoidable, or were some of these just because of the driving practice that, regardless of what we would have done, may not have removed that issue. So that's still work that's ongoing, still work that my team is evaluating and having. We'll have to rely on certain conversations with our public safety department in order to ensure that, as we're thinking about what's happening between 120th to 119th and 119th to 117th, are all being considered in a linked fashion. So that's all to say. We are looking at it. We are evaluating and assessing what the data can tell us and what we can provide. And if there are any additional improvements beyond what we are that are already planned, that do not then exacerbate or create a different public safety potential issue. So hope to have some more information to be able to share with you, with council, when we are at a stage. But I would say, obviously, getting that traffic signal will be a benefit at 170, will be a benefit along that stretch of Chambers.
And I want to say also that you and I talked about this last week, so it's not, you were already working on it, but I do want residents, and especially in Ward 4, to know that it's something that I've been bringing forward, and we're working on it. We're trying to figure out what's going on, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Any other council members?
Yeah.
Councilmember Teeter?
Yeah, I attended the economic development.
Oh, it's not a report out. It's a question for City Manager Rogers.
Okay, I thought we was doing reports.
Sorry about that. That's coming up. City Manager Rogers, I know there's been another look at our asphalt maintenance as far as what maybe other areas could be done. And I know on the schedule, there was another portion of road in Reunion of Parkside North. So since this study, another look at potentially other projects with maintenance, was that one taken off the board?
Can you just tease that out for me a little bit more, Mayor?
So it was programmed to be mill and overlay on Parkside North, on the other side of the park. And there were signs and everything like that. It was on the schedule, but it looked like they just kind of pulled it off schedule because of what was asked a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just seeing if that was part of that.
Not to my knowledge, Mayor, there could have been something that came up from a schedule perspective. I just don't have that answer, and would have to get back with our public works team to see what occurred with that.
All right, I appreciate that.
Do you have something?
Councilmember Teeter?
Yeah, I can notice a difference with the company that you hired this year versus the one last year. These guys are more professional this year, doing the milling and the overlay, and they're just it's just amazing on how much faster they're doing it, and it's just more of a professional job on the way they're doing it. So.
Thank you
This
for
new
that.
technology is paying off.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And like I said, we do plan to come back before you all with some, maybe modernize is probably not the best word, but it's the best word that I have right now. Modernized practices for our mill overlay, pavement crack seal, replacement of chip seal of what's coming up. So, I do look forward to having those engaged conversations with my team to be able to bring forward to you at the appropriate time to explore. That may then influence our 2028 budget. But once again, we are planning to have that in front of you all end of this year at the latest.
Thank you. All right, City Attorney Zarzeki.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of items. I will be attending the Water Commission meeting with a couple of you tomorrow. I will also be at the ACC meeting on Wednesday morning with a couple of you as well. Just a quick update. We had a very robust conversation last week in council's Policy and Governance Committee meeting and wanted to give you an update. So as you recall, we'll be bringing forward a resolution revising CP5. We're going to time that with the second reading of an appropriation ordinance, which would be necessary to amend the budget. So that date, we are tentatively looking at September 21st. So I just wanted to let you all know that that's in the works, and it will be waiting until the second reading of the appropriation ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Any question for our city attorney? Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you, City Attorney. Just a question, did you get your steps in today?
I did. Thanks for seeing me on the street.
Yeah.
All right, on to council reports. Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, I just wanted to report on that economic development tour that we took on Friday. And it was just, I think we learned a lot. It was myself, Councilmember Dukes, Councilmember Trejo, and Padilla, Pro Tem Noble, and and the staff that was there. Parker and Westminister's got a lot of good things going on, and I think we're going to learn. When are we going to get together and talk about that? Is that coming up, or?
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. We need to get together and then come up with something. But the main thing I was really impressed with was the sound system at Parker in their city hall. I mean, you could walk in the main building, and it's similar to ours out here, where you walk in and you got the echoes going everywhere. There's an echo in this room, and I know the manager says he's working on it in here. Do you have something to say about that?
No, about the echo, but I think what I heard is that you would love to be able to have a public discussion about what you've learned, what maybe can be shared as we continue to think about our future with particular areas of our city, and what's the best way of going about that. And what I think may be beneficial is for those who are on the tour, if you would like to have a debrief with staff, and that the debrief can then help maybe inform the discussion points that you ultimately then schedule as a future study session for the rest of your council colleagues to hear. That will just then, I think, continue to shape, like I said, particular conversations around Derby, Victory Crossing, or even Mile High Greyhound Park, or even in the Northern Range. So just something to keep in mind, and if so, then I can work with my staff on taking the necessary steps about that debrief and future study session.
That would be good. But the sound system was the most I was impressed with. Just the acoustics.
We were in a small room.
Oh, no, even when we walked in the main door, though. I mean, that's a big room with tall ceilings, and it was just nice. You could communicate across the room. But anyway, that's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Guardiola, and then Councilmember Dukes.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 10 to 3 of the National Night Outs. Again, I think, and I've attended a couple others from cities, Carmer City does a really good job of doing them. So especially up in Bow Creek, man, it was a party. It was huge. So those were cool to go to. Went to the church and the water department. So thank those organizations for putting it on and having folks there. Met with Councilman Watson from Denver. Had a really good conversation about collaboration, partnerships. We border each other and we're right next to each other. Some of the action items that we're doing that we'll be collaborating with and just being thought partners with I-270, Suncor, and just starting the dialogue. I think we just haven't had that dialogue and just see how we could help each other, especially like we both said, and I know this for years, is families live in Swansea, family lives in Commerce City. They're interchangeable, right? I drive through Swansea and Elyria every day, and have relatives on both sides. So that was very productive. And then just want to give a shout out to Rogelio Moncada, Colorado Parks Recreation Association named him Parks Professional of the Year. You know, I've known Rogelio since he was like 12 years old, and the pride he has reflects, as a person and just good character, really reflects his work here and the pride he has for our city. And I think that was such a cool honor that he gets it, because he is pretty humble. So give a huge shout out to Rogelio. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dukes?
Thank you. I actually want to start with closing the loop on Councilmember Teeter's point around doing a debrief. And City Manager Rogers, is it anticipate we'll just do a meeting that's going to be open, noticed? Is that kind of what we're thinking on that? Okay.
Yes.
I think it's a great idea, and just to echo Councilmember Teeter around, the sound was great, but it is, I think, also the intentionality of building the acoustics so it's accessible, I thought was amazing as well. So I appreciate you noticing that, because it is a difference between really feeling like you could be engaged, regardless of your hearing, where you're at in terms of where you're with the hearing. So I thought that makes a big difference. A quick updates for me. One, just piggybacking on a little bit Councilmember Guardiola. When we think about Suncor, we're going to meet with Suncor. We're going to continue this conversation this week. We're going to have a 2-on-2 with them and Dennis and Leisha and Brandy to continue that discussion on what the relationship looks like with us in the city and Suncor. As far as the metro area visits, I want to thank the city staff and the team for putting that together. I found it extremely dynamic and extremely helpful to be there and talk about and listen to the mayors and city council members discuss their challenges and how they have been creative and useful on using dollars that we have access to as well to address a problem in their community, and also discuss their community input approach and the challenges that they had to overcome. So look forward to more of a debrief, because I think a lot of that discussion is applicable to what we do here as a city, and I left motivated because they have seen the benefits of consistent leadership over the last 6-7 years, and what they've been able to do and get accomplished, you're seeing the benefits of it now. So I think we could do the same thing as a city as we move forward. I had the opportunity to meet with our EPIC Commissioner Singleton this morning, and you know, as he is becoming the chair, or he's the chair of the EPIC Commission, it was a great discussion to talk about their role and how they want to continue to show up and advise City Council and what that looks like in practice, as well as, frankly, how do they make sure they're most effective with their time. And so it was a great discussion, because we all care about our environment here in the city. I also had an opportunity to start creating my monthly meetups, and so a calendar will be released. But the first monthly meetup was going to be August 22nd, with Republic Services at their 74th location. This is an opportunity to have a touch a truck and bring back to school experience and to the Republic Services, as we have adopted and we have an all-electric fleet. We had a number of residents want to be a part and see it firsthand, so I welcome any council members want to be there and invite the community. As I'll send out something on my socials about it, but it's a great family-friendly event, so they can see this effort for us to improve our environment. And then last is just I was able to attend the Settlers Crossing Community HOA summer fling. And this was a combination. This is 4 years in the making, but this year they were able to bring all the HOAs, there's 2 over there, together to have this event. It was great because this is a different, it's a newer community, a Settlers Crossing, and a lot of excitement. And the conversations there left me, again, inspired, as all our communities do. But our community is so dynamic, which this is another reinforcement that it is to our neighborhoods that make our city. And it takes time to go out and listen to all our different neighborhoods, because they're not all one and the same. One thing that I kept hearing is this idea of yes in my backyard here in this community. Like they want the growth and they want some opportunities as they're excited for in Settlers Crossing. So that was great to hear that. With that, that's my updates.
Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I also had the privilege of joining the economic development tour and visiting the town of Parker and the city of Westminster. And like my other colleagues that attended, I also left feeling very inspired and really took away a lot of good nuggets that I think that we could use here. And really just want to thank the city staff for coming along and putting it together. You could tell that those two, well, the town and also the city of Westminster, really collaborate well with their city management, and that's crucial. And I think as long as we continue to have, the same goals in mind, I really feel confident in the direction of our city. So thank you again to the city staff for joining and putting it together.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I had a conflict, but caught up in the city of Westminster. I've always wanted to know more about what happened at that project when the mall went out of business, what caused it to go out of business, how they wound up buying it, and so forth in order to make this project come alive. It was amazing to me to realize that maybe their boundaries are even crazier than our boundaries, because they go all the way up to Orchard Town Center. So they have a couple of big projects in Westminster, that's for sure, when it comes to retail and also housing, because there's another housing project up by Orchard Town Center as well. I, in addition to going to the appreciation breakfast in order to be able to say thanks to so many of the staff who was able to attend last week, I also was at Stead School and was invited to meet with guides at the school as they prepare for their school year, and where we can collaborate with the city and where we can be of assistance. There were a lot of leaders from around the region who sit down with them each year for a roundtable, so it's always fun to participate. One of the teachers really threw me, though, with his question at the end about what can he tell his students about the importance of knowing how to write. And to be honest, it didn't cross my mind that it wasn't like integrated in your life. But of course, it's a different world now. You can have AI do the writing for you, so why do they need to write? It was really an important question. It's been on my mind a lot. In fact, I reached out to him again today so we can talk about it more, what the importance of writing and communication and that kind of stuff. And since you're having a meeting with Suncor this week, you want to be sure and ask them about, this was in Market Watch, Suncor's Colorado refinery can fill supply shortfall after California plant closures. So refineries are closing in California, in Southern California, and the plan is to move the oil and gas here for refining, which has all sorts of implications on many levels. If you haven't seen the article, I'll send it to you. Okay? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I want a special shout out to our employees. Happy Employee Appreciation Month. There's 2 more events this month. And I attended the coffee appreciation, Lone Council Member, Mayor Pro Tem Noble. And it's had a good experience, talked to employees, did this last year, and you can see the groups, Public Works, IT, they come in, they sit together, hey, these are my partners here. So next year we're gonna break them up, and IT's gonna have to sit with Public Works, But no, that was great. Last year we had a coffee vendor. It's all about the employees actually being appreciated. And so I don't think they missed that, because it was the fact they could enjoy each other's company being at work but not doing the work. So shout out to employees for participating, I mean, and actually have the freedom and the mindset to actually participate. And then the city manager Rogers allowing them to do that, because some cities, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to speak other cities, but here in Commerce City, that's being done right. So I appreciate that. With the National Night Out as well, I do like the participation from our police officers and our fire district. They participated as well. In the community, they came out strong, and that was really fun. We also had dinner with Adams County Commissioners last week. There was an agenda, it was just getting together and talking, and and that was nice. I won't be able to participate tomorrow in the Water Commission meeting. I was asked to join Huntington Bank on 104th and Chambers. There's a celebration going on. They asked me to be there, so I won't be able to attend the Water Commission meeting tomorrow. I was interviewed for the Metro Mayor's Caucus on TV, and I didn't sign up for that. I was just there supporting the other mayors. They asked, they had their numbers of mayors that were going to actually participate. And I was just going to support. The other mayors didn't show up. We were going to participate, so they asked me, hey, come on, you want to participate? So that's why it was part of that mayor discussion. And it's kind of like, here's a group of, we don't have all 38, but all at once, but getting together and listening to each other, because we have a lot of similar things that are happening within our city, other cities as well. And how do you combat that? Run a meeting, all kinds of different things. So I do appreciate that I can participate in that. I have a couple of follow-ups and suggestions came out at the Metro Mayors that I'm going to send to City Manager Rogers and to our City Attorney Zarzeki. Also attended Saturday, it was a heat pump block party put on by Xcel Energy. I didn't know it, kind of found out by accident, but Colorado, all the different industries within the heat pump world were there participating and talking to our residents on how they could actually participate in the program. There's going to be another one here next month in Aurora, and I think it'd be, for those who didn't get to participate, can go to that. I'm trying to get them to come back here. If so, I'm going to have an earlier announcement so other council members can come as well. I think it's a benefit to Commerce City, especially our city council, to know how this works. All right, let's see, and then this Wednesday, October 12th, is another employee appreciation. It's ice cream social, and then next Wednesday, August 19th, is employee barbecue. So, as City Manager Rogers said, hopefully we could see more attendance by City Council if they can participate, knowing that most council members also work. All right, it is 8:25. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned. And we're going to go to call the ECA-GID meeting to order. All right, before we call that, we'll take a 5-minute break. We didn't get a break at 8 o'clock, so I'm sorry. I'll give you 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Steve. Thank you. All right, before I begin the CAGID, I want to wish Councilmember Trujillo happy birthday. And Mayor Pro Tem Noble, happy birthday. It's your month, you're going to be embarrassed. All right. Okay, I will now call the CAGID meeting to order and ask the secretary for roll call vote.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
Chair.
roll call, sorry.
Yep. Chair Douglas.
Present.
Vice Chair Noble. Board Member Hordiola.
Here.
Board Member Teeter.
Present.
Board Member Sandoval. Board Member Young. Board Member Dukes.
Here.
Board Member Kim. Board Member Trujillo. Here. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. I need a motion and a second to excuse members not present.
So moved, so moved.
Need a second? Okay. Motion for us to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Okay. All right, that passes. Approval of minutes. Need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, the motion for us to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Okay, it passes 6 with 3 excuse absence. All right, on the presentation on ECAGID 26-001, ECAGID budget overview, owned by Teresa Wilson, Director of Finance, to introduce and make the presentation.
Well, I think in this capacity, I'm technically the treasurer of the board.
Treasurer, okay.
Good evening, Chair and board members. It's my pleasure this evening to provide a preliminary overview of the ECAGID budget for 2027. In November of 2013, ECAGID electors approved ballot questions authorizing the district to issue debt in the amount of $2 billion for improvements to the district. To date, only a little over $14 million has been issued in the form of a bank loan to help fund projects in partnership with Third Creek Metro District. The related agreements to this are summarized on this tab or on this slide for reference. As a reminder, we always like to provide the ECAGID boundary map for reference. If there's any questions about this, we have staff that can answer them. And I do want to mention, this is an improvement that we made last year, providing a snapshot of the GID budgets at this time of the year prior to the public hearing. It used to be that you didn't see this information until the public hearing. So that is one improvement we made to the budget calendar. So these presentations are short and sweet, though. We provide a mill levy history for the district. A few years ago, it was 15 mills. It is up to 27 now. We had a millage level decrease to help promote and spur some development within the district, but it has returned in 23 back to the 27 mill status. To provide a budget snapshot for the ECAGID, this is what we currently have put together for the 2027 budget. Beginning fund balance of $20.8 million, which includes those loan proceeds, along with revenue estimates for 27. We do get the preliminary valuation data from the county later this month. So before we bring this back for the public hearing later this fall, we will update the property tax estimates based on that new valuation data that we get from the county. And then we include some reasonable expenditures for things that might occur during the year, for audit fees, legal fees. We do have to pay a property tax collection fee to the county as part of the process of having those taxes remitted to us. And then anything left over gets transferred to fund balance. So that's what the snapshot of the 27 budget looks like currently. And then we will bring the final budget back to you in October and November for the public hearing and anticipated adoption of the budget. And with that, we welcome any questions that you may have.
Any board members have questions? Vice Chair Noble.
Thank you so much. What role do the property owners play in this at this point? Because it's such a crazy GID with half of it industrial, if you will, and the other half residential. And part of it is commercial.
Absolutely. I mean, currently, property owners would participate as taxpayers within the district. They would have to approve any future ballot measures that were brought forth. We don't have any currently planned for this fall, but any new debt issuances or things like that, the members of the district would have to authorize, voters within the district would have to approve that.
Okay, because the residents of Legato are paying 27 mills. And they don't have much say in it.
The residents are, so the residential portion would be in the ERA GID, and they would be paying a millage of 30.
Pardon me?
They would be paying a millage of 30 under the ERA GID.
I'm just looking at the map that says ECA GID, and it shows Legato West on it.
Yeah, so the ECA and the ERA GID overlap, but if you are a residential component, you fall under the ERA GID, which has a millage rate. And if
Okay.
you're industrial or commercial, you're under the ECA GID.
Gotcha. So only the commercial people are paying the 27 mills.
That's
only
correct.
the commercially zoned property.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, yes, Mayor.
Do they get to help decide this? Do they vote on it then, or do we just do it to them?
They would vote on any future ballot measures, but there's none proposed for
Pardon
this
me,
year.
could you pull the microphone closer?
They would vote for future ballot measures, but there's none currently proposed for this year. So the 27 mills is to help to service the existing debt and planned improvements, but there's nothing beyond what's currently unfolding planned. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now I had a question on this E470 commercial area, general improvement district. On the mills, did any of the money that was generated from the mills contribute towards any improvements on Tower Road?
I have a list. The planned improvements that are in the works with Third Creek include 104th Avenue improvements, there's storm sewer improvements, landscaping improvements, Himalaya Parkway storm improvements, Himalaya Parkway landscape improvements, and Himalaya Parkway storm sewer and sanitary sewer improvements.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, seeing no others, no other questions. It is 8:46. We'll adjourn this meeting. I will call the ERAGID meeting to order and ask the secretary to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Douglas.
Present.
Vice Chair Noble.
Present.
Board Member Guardiola.
Present.
Board Member Teeter.
Present.
Board Member Sandoval. Board Member Young. Board Member Dukes. Here. Board Member Kim. And Board Member Trujillo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion second to excuse members not present.
So moved.
Second.
The motion on the floor is to excuse members not present. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 8 with 3 excused absences. Approve of the minutes, and a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
And Mayor, if I may, there are no minutes on this agenda tonight. That's a typo in the script, so we
okay.
can move on to the presentation.
I appreciate that. All right, presentation on the E470 Residential Area General Improvement District. Budget overview. I will invite Teresa Wilson, the treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and board members. Similar to the ECA GID presentation that we just walked through, this is very similar for the ERA GID. So property taxpayers into this district are the residential property owners as opposed to the commercial property owners that apply to the ECA GID. So the ERA GID is a party to the similar list of agreements that are being worked on for the projects in partnership with Third Creek. Similar boundary map for the ERA GID for reference. Mill levy history of 30 mills for the ERA GID, which has been consistent for a number of years. And then the budget overview on a preliminary basis for the ERA GID, beginning fund balance of $651,000 with revenue estimates there. Similar to the ECA GID, we will update the property tax revenue projections once we get our hands on the preliminary valuations between now and the end of the month. And then the ERA GID, the loan for the Third Creek projects is flowing through the ECA GID, but the ERA GID is on the hook to fund some of those improvements. So the ERA GID makes interest loan payments to the ECA to help fund that. And that's the big difference there. And then the projected ending fund balance of 651. So the ERA GID is starting to reach a point where it will be able to pay more than just the interest on the loan. They'll be able to start putting down some principal payments, and we'll build that into future year budgets. Same remaining timeline for the public hearing and anticipated budget adoption. And then we welcome any questions you may have.
Any questions, Commissioner, board members? I had a question here. It says final payment schedule 12/1/26. Does that mean that $14 million is going to be paid off?
Yes.
Okay.
December 1st.
All right.
No later than.
That's great news. Now, would there be ability to lower the mills like we did with we did that with the GID,
Yes.
just to encourage growth, right?
Absolutely.
And then we raised it back up.
Yeah, I would say once all the project reimbursements are done after the project warranties have expired, which might be another year or two, but once we have all those funding obligations fully met, that is a discussion that we could have.
Okay. All right, appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, Vice Chair Noble?
I see this goes back to 2013.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and Third Creek is a ginormous project, but Legato and Settlers Crossing.
Yeah, there we go, yes.
Are they going to see this paid off? Is that why there's no mill levy showing for the 2026? Is that what you were saying to the mayor, that it's going to be paid off this year and they won't have to pay a 30 mill levy going forward?
Once we've fully fulfilled all of the project reimbursement required under the agreements that the ERA and ECA GID are both a party to, I think at that point in time, which I think we're a year or two out from that, because we haven't done the final acceptances for the projects, and then there's a warranty period, and we wouldn't make final project reimbursements until after that warranty period has expired. So once all those financial obligations around the warranty, or around the projects have been fully fulfilled, I think at that point in time, we can discuss lowering the mill levy.
And I think too that one thing that I think the mayor hinted to, but I think it is a very different conversation on a very different night. But I think something that we probably should have a discussion around is that both with the ECA and the ERA-GID, as you will notice on the first slide, you do talk about the debt cap limit, and that debt cap limit for respectively both is above the $2 billion range. So even though we may meet our various obligations within the existing agreements, there will still be the ability for the issuance of debt under that debt cap limit for future improvements. And those future improvements could potentially cover regional infrastructure, whether that's roadway, sanitary water, sewer, storm sewer, for what you see highlighted within those two improvement districts. So when we start to think about growth and development, and we start to think about some of the big things around native infrastructure, such as Himalaya Parkway, widening of Tower Road, widening of 96 Avenue, east of Tower Road to E470, and east of E470, the ECA and the ERA-GIDs are always intended to be a player at the table in helping to fund that infrastructure. And hence why the millage rates were established as what they were, to be able to generate the necessary revenue to support that level of participation in infrastructure. Once again, we're not there yet because we haven't seen enough development to demonstrate that we could actually be able to make those annual debt service payments for projects that are sizable in nature. You know, we're not talking about $20 million project. We're talking about something that's closer to 50 to 70 to 70 to $100 million worth of needed infrastructure potentially. So while I would say, yes, there's always an opportunity to look at lowering that millage rate, you also have to think about it in the long-term sustainability and support of that future growth and development that would rely on that infrastructure and the purpose of why the GIDs were created at the time, back in 2013. So just things to keep in mind as we get to that end stage of what do we do and how do we support? How do we grow?
Well, in Third Creek, I don't know who will take the longest to get accomplished here, but they're still paying Metro District fees, mill levy as well. So they have the 30 mills for this, and then plus whatever their Metro District mills are. It just gives me ominous think about affordability. You know, we don't have affordability. We have these homes that supposedly are affordable when in fact they're not because of the mills that are attached to them. It's such a burden for people.
And luckily for Third Creek West particularly, there is no residential currently in Third Creek West. We've actually just signed off on their first 12 model homes. So I would assume that we'll actually start to see occupation of that. So like I said, there'll be an opportunity to assess at that time in the next, I would say probably 14 to 18 months on where do we go with ERA-GID mill rates. Keep them at what they are. Do you lower them? But you know, in that you're also then lowering your borrowing capacity against that debt cap limit for infrastructure that would support both them and the commercial development. So once again, I think that's a very comprehensive, very robust conversation that we will need to have. I think when we get to that stage to where we can assess what that new landscape looks like at that point in time. But
Our earnings, our investments, very conservative then because they haven't earned much on the money.
We have been earning interest on the loan proceeds that we took out within the ECA GID, and we do assign interest based on the resources of each fund. We do an interest allocation. So based on the fund balance within each fund, the ERA and the ECA GID do earn interest. That stays within that fund.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, the time is 8:57. See no further business. We're adjourned with this one. We'll call the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement District to order. I'll ask the secretary to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Douglas,
Present.
Vice Chair Noble,
Present.
Board Member Horiola,
Present.
Board Member Teeter,
Present.
Board Member Sandoval, Board Member Young, Board Member Dukes,
Present.
Board Member Kim, Board Member Trujillo.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum, and the minutes are on this agenda, so we can approve those.
All right, thank you. Need a motion second to excuse members not present?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. The motion for excuse members not present. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, it passes 6 with 3 excuse absence. All right. Approval of the minutes. I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Passes 6 with 3 excuse absences. All right, presentations. Presentation, NIGID 26-001, NIGID budget overview. I will invite Teresa Wilson, our treasurer.
Good
Thank you.
evening, Chair and board members. Jumping right into the budget snapshot of the NIGID for 2027. In November of 97, NIG electors approved 15 million in bond issuances for water and sewer improvements, 5 million for water, 10 million for sewer. These original bonds were retired, refunded, and new debt was issued for street improvements. The only remaining bonds within the NIGID are the 2024 general obligation refunding bonds issued in the amount of 43.67 million. Just for background, we refunded these back in 2024 and put down an additional 11 million on the principal to pay this down a bit faster. So we made some good changes to this debt a couple years ago. The remaining debt obligation after this year is 35.4 million in principal, 10.4 in interest, for a total of 45.8, just for a snapshot of that. Here's the NIGID boundary map, if there's any questions about the geography here. The mill levy history for the NIGID, it used to be much higher at 20 and 14 mills. In 24, we lowered it to 8 mills, and we continue to do analysis on the mill levy rate and what it brings in property taxes to service the remaining debt. This slide is really background information for 2 options that are described in a couple of slides, but essentially the story here is on the left is the remaining debt service by year, principal and interest, of that total 45.8 million. So it's between 4 and 5 million each year to be totally paid off in 2036 if we stick to the remaining amortization schedule. On the right, you see estimated revenue based on valuation data from last December. So this, I'll update this to see what changes come with the preliminary valuation data we receive later this month. But at 8 mills, as you can see, that would be estimated to bring in 5.2 million in revenue, which is higher than the debt service obligation. Hold on to that information for a couple slides because there's a couple options that we would like feedback on from you. And then we also provide what the estimated revenue would be at a sliding downward scale down to 1 for the mill levy. This slide provides a high-level overview of the NIGID preliminary budget for 2027. Beginning fund balance of 8.3 million plus estimated property tax and other more minor revenues gets us to 5.9 million in total revenues. And then proposed expenditures, most of which are to service the debt that we've discussed, and then a projected ending fund balance of 8.3 million. Getting to the 2 options that we would like feedback from the board on. Option 1 is essentially to continue to assess 8 mills and over-collect property tax in excess of what's needed to service the debt. By doing this, we estimate that we could pay the debt off 3 years early and save between 1.2 and 1.3 million in interest. So the debt could be paid off in 2023 versus 2036 with a significant interest savings by paying it off 3 years early. Option 2 is we could begin continuing to lower the mill levy, and we could lower it to 7 mills for 2027 and collect just the right amount to service the debt and continue to decrease it thereafter and supplement the undercollected property tax with available fund balance to continue to make our debt payments. Under this option, we would pay it off in 2036 as planned under the original amortization schedule, and we would not experience that interest savings. Staff recommends option 1.
And if I may, Teresa, I
Yes.
think when you're highlighting with, over collection, I would categorize it more as a slight over collection based off of what is the annual debt service that we need to make in regards to what we would actually be collecting in that mill levy. So we're talking somewhere between 450 to 500,000 in over collection. And the history behind why we went from 14 to 8 was one, trying to minimize that over collection to being as pinpoint to what we actually needed to, while also not dipping into fund balance in the event there was a decrease or recession or other matters that could then impact our ability to then meet that debt collection. So the 8 mills was intentional to ensure that we would be able to remain solvent without having to dip into reserves, and then ultimately then having to potentially then increase our mills back to a place to be able to ensure that we were able to then pay off the debt by the 2036 window or in advance of that. So that's why a little bit of more context behind recommendation of option 1.
And the difference to the homeowner between the 8 and 7 mills is between $35 and $36 a year, just for reference.
Is that $36, $35, is that based on per 100,000 or?
It's the average home value
Okay.
in the NIGID. So I used the tax district and the NIGID in the Northern Range and calculated that. So it's based on, I think I used 540,000 as the average home price. But the 1 mil difference is between $35 and $36 for reference per year.
All right. Does any board member have any questions for our treasurer?
No, it looks to me like it'd make sense to pay it off early.
Board member Dukes?
Just echoing Board Member Teeter's comment, option 1 looks like a good option to pay it off early while be able to have significant interest savings. And the other thing I'm hearing is that it's more consistent instead of dipping into the fund balance where it may be some inconsistencies later on in terms of the market.
You know, the council, any other board members? Is board members okay with option 1? Okay. Councilmember Trujillo? Board member Trujillo,
Thank you.
birthday girl.
Guess I gotta put it on the record. Okay. So I'm inquiring about a conflict of interest, being a resident in the area. I would like to kind of inquire with City Attorney Zarzaki.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you're bringing this to light. The question was just posed as to whether or not there's a conflict with a member that is, a resident within this area. And my question is, has this issue come up? And if so, how have we dealt with it in the past? Yes.
We're not aware of any questions that have come up.
Okay.
I mean, a majority of us live in the area.
I was here, and I voted to reduce it twice.
Okay.
So it was, we voted on it in 2022, and we reduced it. We voted on it in 2023 and we reduced it. And we were all very excited to get it down to 8 mills from 20 2 years earlier. That's where we are right now, is at 8 mills.
Yes, understood. I appreciate that. I appreciate the history.
That's how it was done in the past.
Yeah, and I understand that this question just came up, and I think it's a very fair question to ask. Obviously, what you're hearing is we've done that historically. I don't know that the conflict interest has ever been asked of anyone.
I think it's certainly a legal question we need to look into.
Yes, and with that, I guess I would look to finance on what your timing is, because I'm not going to give you a legal answer on the fly immediately. I would have to do some research to see, what the requirements are.
So you have until 10/19.
That's a billion years in the legal world, so that's fine. So what you could do is you could continue this item, allow us the opportunity to review this question and get you an answer.
I think I would feel more comfortable doing that. Certainly not trying to make this complicated, but I think it's certainly something we need to look into.
And the purpose of tonight is to share preliminary budget data. There's
Great.
no action or vote this
Okay.
evening. So
Great.
This is just a general discussion to get some basic feedback based on
Wonderful.
preliminary budget data.
Okay, great.
One more thing. We used to hold these meetings at midnight, and I remember Caitlin being here, so the attorney generally sat through all these meetings. She didn't leave. She was here earlier and she left.
Well, she's
But
the
she would
counsel
be
for the
here
URA,
during-
not the GIDs.
Pardon me?
She's the counsel for the URA, not the GIDs.
Oh, not the URA.
Yeah.
Well, whoever our bond person was would be part of it. They would be on Zoom or whatever the case was.
So what I'm hearing is there's no formal action, which means the option 1 versus option 2 discussion can continue to a future meeting, and we will get you the answer to your question. Appreciate you asking it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question for Deputy Manager Carson. What was the original mill when this started?
We absolutely have those records, and I'll verify, but I believe it was 27 mills originally.
Yeah.
But we will verify.
Sure. Because I was on council too when they lowered it the first time. All right, so we can go ahead and continue this so we can get a clarification on where that sits, since majority of the council members live up in the northern range and are affected by the Northern Infrastructure General Improvement Mill. All right, it is 9:11 p.m. See no further business. This meeting is adjourned. If there's no further business, you can go home. Thank you.